My air conditioning and heating stops working after a few hours and a faux code appears. We close the circuit breaker in a few minutes after we leave. What is the solution? Model, KFR 35 gigawatts, BMVE.
Welcome to JustAnswer. Click here for the service manual please. Let me know if it matches your unit or not. I will be referring to it as we go along. When you get a chance, explain to me the part about leaving. I see it as shutting down and bringing up a code, but not getting the part about leaving. Anyway, we will figure it out.
When you get a chance, explain to me the part about leaving. I see it as shutting down and bringing up a code, but not getting the part about leaving. We close the circuit breaker on the electrical panel for a few minutes. After we put a circuit breaker in, it works from 30 minutes to several hours, varies. When it stops running, always the same code that appears, F0.
I should have understood what you said. I actually did. You were saying you left the breaker off by saying leaving the breaker off. I thought the same, but better to ask than assume. So you are leaving the breaker off, that resets the board, or other component, and then you get a working furnace and air conditioner for maybe 20 minutes, maybe half the day, and then it quits. Does the unit seem to quit in the AC mode or the heat mode or both? When the AC/furnace goes off, it gives you a code FO. Then the unit will not come back on, in any mode, AC or furnace, until you reset the breaker again. Reset is often used when speaking of electrical/electronic devices, especially breakers. Reset equals turn off/turn on. It also means flip off, flip on. The fault code doesn't display directly, and it will display as following instruction: press the on/off button 6 times within 7 seconds. There will be 3 DU sound on indoor unit, and the indoor unit will display the fault code. Drain system might be filling up in the indoor unit and causing the unit to turn itself off. When the unit sits for a while and the water evaporates, it will run again until the tray fills, the float switch activates and the outdoor unit is deactivated. Then send me that code. I think the F0 is telling you the unit is energized, has power to it, but is not getting a command to start. F0 equals frequency 0, no frequency, not a fault code. Try the procedures to get the fault code, then refer to the code list. Also, after shutting the power off for a long time, checking the condensation drain for a backup and tripping the switch, inside unit. Shut off power and clean the unit the best you can where you can, inside and out, but stay away from the capacitors. Let me ask something else. What is the longest amount of time you have left the circuit breaker in the off position? Have you turned it off for 20 minutes? 5 minutes? Again, is it in the AC mode or the furnace mode or either mode? Many times an electronic device will reset. Now don't get that confused with the breaker. This type of reset is another event where the electronics actually reset themselves. This could be the main board in the blower unit, or even in the thermostat. Televisions, for example, I have had to turn power off for hours or more, and that fixed the problem. It has to do with how the board is built/wired/soldered, the type and quality of the components, and many other reasons, too many to go into here. There are several things I need you to let me know about. These may seem very simple and even insulting, but believe me, my best technicians will run a generator on rare occasion backwards, and not notice it. Have you changed the filter in the blower unit? Or cleaned it correctly and completely? Both inside and outside filters. If it is a replaceable filter, is it pointing the right direction? For airflow? Are all the panels and doors secure and properly seated on the blower unit and outdoor unit? Is there any noticeable vibration when the unit comes on in either furnace mode or AC mode? This would be the blower shaking the blower cabinet, indoor or outdoor unit. Anything that gets your attention? Noise? Is this a new problem? Or when did this problem start? Here is a set of tests method of testing the system at a fixed frequency cooling capacity middle frequency, cooling rated capacity heating capacity middle frequency, heat rated capacity 1. Start the air conditioner 2. Operate remote controller as following mode, cool mode set temp. 18C indoor fan, high mode, cool mode set temp. 16C indoor fan, high mode, heat mode set temp. 28C indoor fan, high mode, heat mode set temp. 30C indoor fan, high press powerful button 5 times with 10 seconds. F0 is the frequency the unit is currently in. These units change the speed of the compressor and blowers by changing the frequency of the electrical power. It is somewhat complicated, but basically instead of shutting off when temp is reached, this kind of unit slows down and speeds up. With a frequency of 0 it would not be running, so it is on but at no speed. Troubleshooting this unit might require more tools and meters than the normal homeowner, but maybe you installed it? This type unit is also a heat pump type unit, where the temperatures between inside and outside are critical, as I see no backup for the heat like traditional heat pumps. I am very curious as to what mode, cool or heat, does this failure occur, or have you tried it in both modes? It might be hard to do, considering if you try to test in heat mode while it is hot outside, the unit itself may just go in shutdown mode, which is normal. That is why special testing is needed. Make sure the FO is really F0. Notice one is F cap O and the other is F0, 0, also is the F clearly and F not a P? Sometimes these displays are horrible to read. Again, just checking the very basics, hoping there is something you can do, but if it is frequency 0, no frequency, in other words it may take some intense diagnostics to find the problem. Is this unit more than 5 years old? I would check UF 5 years on the compressor. The compressor could be at 0, meaning it might be low on refrigerant gas, a leak from the manufacturer, that would make it run for different amounts of time dependent on the outside temp compared to the inside temp, but that scale or chart should be in your manual. You do have a manual for the unit? Does it show F0 as a failure code or a fault code? Here is the list of Shinko failure codes I found for single split units as your model indicates. Before going through the codes, try the tests at the beginning of my reply, especially the 5 times on powerful. That might do the complete reset, a block filter, a loose or missing cover, anything that disturbs the designed airflow, be it restrictions or not. A common failure of inverters, the device that controls the speed of the compressor and fan, are the capacitors. If you have no experience with capacitors of this size, I don't want you around them. They hold a high charge and could cause injury if you get into them. I would check the filters, connections, measure voltages if you have a meter, and past that I would have a service tech and try a warranty claim. AC/heaters should last 15 years or more, and I bet this is not near that old. Shinko is proud of their reputation. I would absolutely make a warranty claim. At least it is a chance you get a new unit, and it keeps you out of the capacitors possibly, and I don't want you near them unless you understand them completely. The slightest thing like a cocked cover panel letting too much air through could shut down the unit, or a slight difference in outside and inside temps could shut down the unit, because it works like a heat pump, which are touchy for moderate locations only. Voltage to the unit. If the voltage is high or low, it could cause this intermittent behavior. It is just not likely you have a button to push to fix the problem now. You might check the sleep mode, and I would reset the breaker but leave the power off for as long as you can. I know you are using it as you can make it work, but I think a good try would be to shut it completely off for overnight and let the capacitors try and balance. It may be the amount of off time is not long enough. It might take an hour, it might take all night. When I install an inverter for another device, say a variable speed saw, I have to discharge and charge the capacitors for 12 hours on some units, so that adds to the possible fix. Leave the breaker off for a long time, as long as you can stand. Error codes. Error code reference E0 outdoor discharge pipe sensor, E1 indoor air sensor, E2 indoor pipe sensor, E3 indoor fan motor, E4 circulation fault between indoor and outdoor unit, E6 outdoor air and pipe sensor, E7 outdoor fan motor, P1 compressor overheating, P4 indoor unit don't match outdoor unit, P0 connection error between outdoor power board and compression. How does the Shinko remote work? http://www.thermospace.com/shinko/inverter_service_manual. PDF downloadable links. Download Shinko English Manual, PDF file, 750 kilobits. Download Shinko French Manual, PDF file, 480 kilobits. After you get through all the procedures and get a code or not, let me know, and leave the breaker off for as long as you can stand it. Hello. I keep getting notified you have replied, but I see nothing in the reply box. I am not sure why I am getting so many notices with nothing here. I am asking one of the techie people who operate this and see what the deal is. I take it you're in Canada. No time for a heater not to run. Let me see again why I get nothing, just an empty reply box. I am really sorry about that. In case you are not familiar, we are not Shinko, we are independent contractors, and in most cases that is good because we have no loyalty to anyone but you. In some cases manufacturers hide some proprietary information so they can get the aftermarket repair and parts business, but most of the time that is not a problem. Let me look again into why there is nothing in my reply box. It should be there, they say, but I have nothing to reply to. Hang in there. DT, you've received a reply. Hi, your customer has replied to your conversation. Carrier air conditioner fan is not working. Post category HVAC questions. Question: carrier air conditioner fan is not working. Value $7.50. Time left less than 1 minute. Posted by Bianoni 2010. No, I turned switches off and power off before. Just my meter when there is no current, instead of showing 99999999999999999 ohms, it shows 1. It's not 1 volt or 1 ohm. When I turn meter to resistance and testers are not touching each other, the meter shows 1. Okay, that is normal with the leads apart and you get a 1. So does mine. It means there is no resistance to measure, or, and this is not real rare, if one of your leads is broken it could give you a false open. Go to a Radio Shack or some store like that and buy a resistor. Get one like a 500 ohm resistor, a cheap one. Around 500 ohms will measure in most scales you care about, but it is good to have to check your meter and keep an eye on the calibration. The resistor should cost less than $1. Then you have a test resistor to prove your meter leads are intact and you are actually measuring no resistance, in other words an open circuit. Now once we prove your meter, I think it is fine, but check anyway. Now what are you checking on the AC/heat unit that measures 1 or open? Remember, checking these frequency-driven devices are not like normal fuses and normal motor windings. I see what your concern is, but at this point it is acting like any other multimeter, a one with the leads completely apart and not touching. That is normally fine. But to make absolutely sure, replace the battery, get you a $1 resistor, and say it is 200 ohms, then your meter should read 200 on the ×1 scale. Now if you have an open lead and you measure the resistor, it would say 1 again, and that would tell you the meter is messed up, or the lead or leads are open, broken in the middle, pulled out of the tip, so on. I doubt it, but it is good to have a test resistor, that way you can test your meter on occasion when you go to use it. Then tell me what you are finding on the heat AC unit that is measuring 1, if anything. But good question. You would think the meter would try to measure space, but it don't. There is resistance there, but it is way low. Air is the best insulator that is natural in nature, but check it out. Change the battery, do a test on a known value, make sure the meter is doing what it is supposed to do. Then we can measure on the unit. Now remember, on these variable speed units they are different than standard motor windings, so we have to take all that into consideration. Then did you go through the procedures and get any other codes besides F0?
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert, now visit justanswer.com/ythi.